Hello, this is Dale Matthews. It's Sunday, and on Sundays, I'm joined by Mike Jones.
Yes. And Sundays only. Hi, people. Hi, I'm your Sunday guy, Mike Jones.
We'll be talking, as we plan on doing, talking about the charter, the Josephine County Charter. We intend to make it interesting. We'll do the best that we can. Last week we didn't
Boy,
because,
that's a tall order.
we're going to try. Last week we didn't talk about the charter because there was so much that had happened at a local
That's
church.
right.
You maybe didn't hear anything about that. But this time we're going to talk about the charter. And so Mike's going to show you just a very brief review. It's going to be like tick, 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 tick of what we talked about last time when we were talking about the charter. Go ahead, Mike, and show them tick, tick, tick here.
Hang on before I do that.
Yes.
There is a little update on the church thing, in that I ran into somebody in social media who had been at River Valley today and said that somewhere near the end of the sermon there was a clarification. I watched the last 15 minutes and I did not see said clarification, and maybe I need to go back and watch it a little closer for, a brief thing that I would not have interpreted as a clarification or something like that. But anyway, that's what I heard today in social media, that somehow he clarified what happened last Sunday.
There has been an awful lot of there's been a lot of attempting to explain what the heck this guy was talking about, and don't get upset because there's nothing to be upset about.
Yes,
that's not been working out so well, but we've seen that from the other side on this subject of the levy, on just about everything. And whenever you've got it at a point where you're going, Cheryl Walker just broke the law. Well, no, not technically. Yes, technically in every other way. So whatever, just go ahead and explain it away, boys, because the vote is now here. And so we're going to move beyond all this, which is why we're getting into the charter, because there's other things to look at. To the charter, off we go. Okay, so this is the front part of the charter, and we're going to jet past all of the table of contents because that's the boring part.
Yes, and we did that here the other day. Yeah, However,
the table of contents.
Yes, I know, huh? Isn't that something? Well, actually, we're out of the table of contents and into the.
I guess we are. Okay, all right. That was the whole charter. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, all right. Hey, this concludes our
sermon for the day. Yes.
Yes. And I'm very sorry for any misinterpretation you may have.
Oh yes, but there'll be a clarification later.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we'll come back and clarify. Now, before we get into this part, because we had wanted to get in and touch on, because right after this last week's weekly business session, last Wednesday, we had in our minds, because the miners.
Let's see you again. Can we see you again, please,
sure.
Mike?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so Joseph Rice and the miners and the Mary Emmerich, his information officer, had been at the weekly business session, and they were asking the commissioners to take a position on their situation, as to their rights, to due process and things like that. And Dale and I both thought, well, hey, the charter says something about that. So we went over to talk to Wally Hicks about that right after the weekly business session. And any clarification we might have been looking for did not happen. But he did tell us that essentially some of the things that you may take a liking to in the charter here, such as, that the sheriff is not going to do anything to violate somebody's right to due process, or something along those, to violate any or advocate violating any one of your constitutional rights. They're supposed to take a stand on that sort of thing. And apparently, Steve Rich, in his last 20 years in here, dumped a whole bunch of annotations into the charter, basically, hobbling some of those sections of the charter. And so we wanted to get some information from Wally about that. Are we any wiser about that, Dale, than we were?
Do I look any wiser? Okay, look, here's the thing. We're going to go just a little bit slower on this. You have to imagine Mike and I, with our reputation, with the popularity of the show, you're watching it. Here we are sitting in the hallway with the newly elected legal counsel. Now it's 20 years, a whole generation of Steve Rich. And Steve Rich could always be counted on to tell the commissioners, well, don't worry about breaking the law. No one's enforcing it. Oh, what a great legal counsel. Or, or to tell them, or when the citizens got it together. I mean, you've got to get an awful lot of votes for this. Isn't it 2/3? I think that it is, but we'll confirm that as we go through this with you. So Steve Rich was the one after the citizens demanded that the charter be changed to say you cannot, as county commissioners, raise fees unless we okay you raising the fees. And Steve Rich went to court against the people in favor of those commissioners who were there to fight in the court against you and make sure that that was nullified. And the way he told the story was that the judge says, well, I'm going to rule in your favor if there's nobody here from the other side.
Right. Yes. And, perhaps if they had been notified, if the other side had been notified, maybe they might have shown up.
What a lovely way to win. And in addition, I mentioned it again, he was elected by you guys. We tried to get someone to run against him, but in talking with people over the years about, no, I got to work in this, they're lawyers. I have to work in this community. Really? Now, there wasn't a requirement. There still isn't a requirement that you have to be a member of the bar to run to be legal counsel. That's kind of crazy, but it's not in there. Not in there. My feeling is
you also don't have to be a lawyer to be a Supreme Court justice. You know that?
Right. So it makes as much sense. Okay. Well, yes, because the Supreme Court justice is equal to a county legal counsel in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, of course.
Yes. Okay.
So he fought against things like this all the time. Oh, don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. Oh, and his famous phrase, in ignorance is bliss. Yes. It's really better that you have deniability. That's nice. Yes, thank you very much, Steve Rich. Okay, so here we are. We're seated in the hallway, because that wasn't my first choice, but it was Mike's. We're seated in the hallway with Wally Hicks, and people are walking by, and they're seeing Wally Hicks is talking with Mike and Dale. And Cheryl Walker walked by, and she just and there was something fascinating about the tiles near her feet, I guess, because she just needed to kind of stop and stare down at the ground, and then the clerk came over and joined her, and they were having a nice little low voice conversation, not listening to us at all, but standing only a couple of feet away while Wally was explaining bits and pieces of the charter to us.
Well, and right, Wally, I got to tell you. If you go, okay, Wally, due process, go. And he just, he can just go. He knows the stuff pretty well, and very, very entertaining to listen to. And, one of these times we're going to have to get him on the show, or we're going to have to tape a segment with him, sit down at a table, and we'll just videotape us talking about it or something along those lines, because it's fascinating. And he has insight into this that we are really, like a couple of guys. Hey, what do you think about that?
No, we're citizens. We are the authorities, and this thing is.
Yes.
No. The citizens are, not Mike and I. Come on, not Mike. But the thing is that the citizens put this thing together. We're the ones that wanted certain things in there. We put certain things on the ballot, which is not easy for changing a charter. It's a big deal, and so we should be able to figure out what the heck this thing says, right?
Indeed, and the charter is actually pretty straightforward. And well, here let's. This is the point of interest right now when we're talking about the minors and I mean, just regular citizens having issues with authority and things of that nature. Satan worshippers. Here, this section here deals with due process and just compensation.
Boy, that's hard to read, but we're going to read it to you.
Okay. Section 29 point, whoops, here.
They even put in the intent. See, well, maybe you can't see, but it says
yes.
The intent of this charter amendment, amendments,
is to provide the citizens of Josephine County with local protection of one of their inalienable rights as originally defined by our founding fathers in the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights.
The following provisions shall be adopted into the Josephine County Home Rule Charter and shall govern all actions by individuals and organizations, both public and private, within Josephine County.
No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This also ties into the eminent domain thing that's happening over there at Allen Creek.
That's correct.
Okay, so now we will have to get into the annotations to find out if this is one of the ones that has been hogtied by it. So let's go to the next, and they get into definition of just compensation.
Right. Definition.
Which I think if you're the person who is having your land taken for some purpose, you're very interested in this part of this section of the charter.
Well, we just put out a new video, and the new video, but you may wish to go see, I'm telling you, is called County Citizens Forced to Pay $120,000 so the board can give away seizure rights to the city. What? County citizens forced to pay $120,000 so the board can give away seizure rights to the city.
Yeah, and for a little bit of clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dale, what he's talking about is that the city, they want this land for this road, but they want the county to do certain improvements on the land before they give it to them, and the cost of that is $120,000. Is that right?
I believe that's the case. Can we see you again, Mike? Because
sure, absolutely.
Buddy. Okay, I love seeing that little punum there. Okay, so look, here's the deal. Now where am I? Okay, okay, all right. So here it is to the best of our understanding. Now I sit in all these meetings. You already know that, but I've tried to understand what it is they're saying, and this has been going on for about 1.5 years. This is what it looks like. Now, if this is a little bit off, we're doing the best that we can. It's a free show. What do you want from us? Okay, so the city wants to eventually get their hands on a certain road, okay? And they don't like the fact that it's a straight road. Oh, no, they want a road that twists and turns because those are vastly superior, as we all know. If only our highways are all like that.
They're featured in every sporty car commercial.
That's right. Well, these aren't the sporty kind. This is to slow you down.
Oh.
Now, we want to slow down government. They want to slow down the citizens, of course. Okay, so in order for the city to take this over, now my understanding is that they won't be paying us anything for it. That's my understanding. I hope that's right. We're going to give it away to them. But they don't want us to give it away to them until I've done a bunch of improvements to it. It's got to be a much better street, or they don't want to take it. Really?
Okay.
Okay.
But I have a question, and the question is, does that $120,000 come out of the general fund and then get spent for the benefit of the city, and then that's $120,000 gone? Or does the city somehow compensate us for that? I mean, how is this whole thing going to take place? Yeah, it's just I'm a little confused here because if this is a zero-sum thing and the county wants to give that land to the city, I don't know about that, but I don't want, and I don't necessarily care about that. But if we are taking some of our money, which we have very little of, and we're going to spend 120,000 of it just so that we can give this to them and they'll be happy with us, that's a whole different ballgame.
Well, what they did is they took $120,000 directly from the pockets of union employees that work for the sheriff's department. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Okay, look.
Yeah, somebody be wearing cement tennis shoes if that were the case.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, here, I don't know. It may come out of the general fund. It may be coming from a grant that's coming into Josephine County that could have been spent for something else. But the point is that instead of spending money on something that we may all really want, the county commissioners have to spend money on just a little section of Allen Creek Road because the city won't even pay attention to taking it over unless we do a bunch of changes similar to the kind of changes that you would see in all of our bus stops if we left it up to the city. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. And well, they're about to do something about this. I'm assuming
Wednesday.
Listen, Wednesday. This is where transparency is supposed to have. You should have that out 2-3 weeks ahead of time. Okay, everybody, what do you think of this? Now, I understand they don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come in there and tell them, "Hey, you can't do this because
I do.
I like that."
I want every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's a citizen in Josephine County to show up and stop changing the words from eminent domain, which about half of us know what that means, to a resolution of necessity.
Yes. Okay.
That's not transparency.
Occasionally eminent domain stuff happens, and you would hope that at some point in there that just compensation takes place. And at the same time, and I think that as a topic is a different topic than this. We are going to pay $120,000 to improve the road so that we can then give it to them. That's an entirely different thing.
Now, you've seen the video, and so what was it that Cheryl Walker said?
I did not actually see the video.
Oh, you didn't? Don't you watch the videos?
Well, when you called me, Dale, and said, "Hey, I just posted
kidding
video,"
you. I'm kidding you. Okay, no need.
Shockingly, I was in the midst of
something else.
Yes, I was in the midst of separating earthworm castings from earthworms.
Of course.
And anyone who's ever done that, we've all done that,
Yes, of course.
You can't stop in the middle of that process. You have to get it done because at nighttime it gets cold and these particular worms cannot be where it's cold. So that's how weird I am. Just so you know.
Okay, yeah, and then they all fit into a pie, and then they cook it at 150. No, okay. Look, here's earthworm casting. This is a real nice way of saying, what. Okay, so look, here's what Cheryl Walker's.
What are you talking? No. No, you got to finish that explanation. It's a nice way of saying what, Dale?
Never mind. Yes. Okay, all right. So the things that come out of the back end of an earthworm. Okay, so.
Right. Yes.
Okay,
and that's true. That's true, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Earthworm castings,
Yes, right. But it's not the same as Hollywood castings. Okay.
No, it isn't.
Although it ends up with the same kind of product.
Yes. Well, actually, this is better fertilizer than that is.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, but okay, if you insist. All right. So it was an easy transition for. Oh, I'll be done with this in a second. For Mike, from earthworm castings to Board of County Commissioner castings, it's all the same. It's good for fertilizer. Okay. All right. So that's enough of that. Any acknowledgement from Mike? No, obviously not. Okay, so I love acknowledgement of these wonderful jokes.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. So Cheryl Walker was saying one of the things about just compensation, she said, well, we may have some land on the back end of those properties, and so we could just give that to those property owners if they don't like the. So here's the thing. We want to take the front end of your property, and so we're going to give you the back end of your property. And then, so what your front door is like 5 feet from the road, but you can make up for that by having a really wonderful back door.
Yeah,
that's 15 feet from the next property. Woohoo!
Right.
Boy, awesome. What a good deal. Okay, so we are expected to do something about just compensation, but that's not the issue here. It's not about just compensation because a judge, not the county commissioners, thank God, will be involved in figuring out what's fair. Can you imagine if the county commissioners, this set of county commissioners, only this set, was involved in figuring out what's fair? Hey, yeah, that's a non-starter. No, this will be some kind of judge that gets involved. And as Cheryl Walker pointed out, well, maybe there won't be any disputes.
Well, I mean, we could take 2 minutes and read this section of the charter.
We're going to do so. But a last point. Yes, we
might actually tell us that.
That's what this is about. Okay, that's what this show is about. And we're doing the best that we can to read through this as good citizens should. You should have done this already, but you haven't gotten around to it. And so we're doing that with you when you're watching the show.
Come on. Oh, yes. And we are talking down to you from on high.
No, obviously not, because we
haven't done it either.
We don't know beans about this, and we're figuring it out as we go along because we're regular citizens. We're the authorities. Remember that.
Yes, that's right.
And so,
and you know what? In fairness to that, we are the authorities, and how could we possibly claim to understand this? This stuff is written in layman's terms. It is very straightforward. There's nothing complicated about it.
Well, it's just that most people haven't taken any chance to actually open the thing up, except every once in a while they might glance at it. So we're going through it a piece at a time. But here was that point I was trying to make at the very beginning of the show, and that was that what this is about is handing over the power of eminent domain, because the county has that over its residents. The city, Grants Pass City, wants this county to hand it over to them so they can do these takings, as they call them, from county residents. Hey, so wait a minute. What gives you the authority to hand over? Because they're living in the county. If they wanted to live in the city, they would. They don't want to live in the city, most of them.
Well, wait a minute. Who is going to do the taking?
The city.
Okay, so the city is going to do the taking, and so then they will be involved in determining the just compensation with the current landowner. I would be interested to know what if any differences there are in determining just compensation between the city and the county.
Well, for those who prefer not to be city residents, my guess would be that is a pretty tough subject. They don't want to be city residents. If they wanted to be city residents, they move into the dang city. They live in the county. They elected these county commissioners. The people, well, that shows you how bad they are, but they elected these county commissioners. They did not elect the city councilors because they don't live in the city. But suddenly, the county commissioners decide among themselves that they're going to hand off these citizens who think that they're under the rules of the county. They're going to hand them off to the city. And the only chance you have to complain about that in general, because it's going to happen again and again in other places, is to come to the meeting on Wednesday morning, this coming Wednesday morning, today's Sunday, and say, hey, wait a minute, what the heck do you think you're doing? You don't have the right to hand over my governance to somebody else that you've chosen.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, and listen, none of us likes this, but eminent domain it happens, and that's the same as other things that happen. But it does happen.
Yeah.
Here's another thing to consider when you, in many cases, because I know people who have been annexed into the city, and then the city comes along and puts in curb and gutter. And making it a part of their little neighborhood structure, and then they send you a bill for $40,000 to pay for the curb and gutter and sidewalk, as your contribution. So I'm wondering, since they don't like this straight road that probably already has curb and gutter, and they want a curvy road, are they now going to take this and then nail all those people who are going to get annexed into the city for new curb and gutter? And, because this can be big money, because they don't do it at the rate that you could pay a contractor to do it. They do it at the rate they like to do it at, or their chosen contractor has given.
Well, since you asked, I believe that the answer is they want most of those changes, but maybe not all. Because they don't talk about that, you see. They don't talk about it.
Right.
They want most of those changes to be made before they acquire the property, which is where the county comes in.
With whose money though? That's
Well,
you know.
right. Now, we don't know if it's coming directly out of the general fund. We don't know if it's coming out of the fund for kittens and sunshine. We don't know that. My guess would be that I don't know, but that money might be coming out of some kind of grant from the state that we could spend on something else, but instead we're going to spend it on this. It's very similar to the destruction of the Demick Tower that went $100,000 as a cost overrun. Some people were alarmed when we told you that story, but the real case is we were given a lot more money than we needed. The commissioners had a plan, which they've since denied, but they say it on tape, so you can't deny this. Just grow up. Okay, they had a plan to take the amount that was going to be left and put it into other county projects at their discretion. But there wasn't any money left because of the stupid cost overrun. Okay, so it's not true that the additional came out of the best of our understanding, came out of the general fund. It came out of funds that would have gone into the general fund.
Right.
Is there a difference?
But this whole topic that we're talking about is where the video that Dale just put up leads you to, and is leading us further away from this document sitting on our screen here.
What document on a screen here?
This document.
Oh, that document on a screen? What's that?
Yes. That's the charter, Dale.
Oh,
remember,
no. I forgot all about it.
It's Sunday night. So, I mean, we could go into the definition of just compensation, which would be kind of taking up where we left off.
Okay, just compensation means that no properties or personal possessions shall be taken for public use without fair and just compensation. Just and fair compensation shall be defined as follows. Mike?
The average of 2 separate independent appraisals to be paid for by the government body or entity seeking possession. And that seems logical that they would do that. 2 independent appraisals. I would want a little bit of transparency. Were I the party who was going to receive said just compensation, I would want to thoroughly vet the agencies that are going to be doing the appraisals.
Well, because we all know that what CUFs and SOS and the county depend upon as independent observers or appraisals would probably end up being people from all walks of Rotary Club. Okay.
Yes.
No, this is very important. No elected or appointed official of Josephine County shall pass or enforce any law, ordinance, resolution, or administrative rule or statute that denies or erodes any of the provisions of this charter amendment. Can we see you again, Mike?
Sure.
That's important. That's very important.
Yeah,
very important.
I think so.
That wording is, you can't pass a law that would erode this. What does erode mean?
Yes. Well, I think because they're talking about this charter amendment. So what they're saying is that anything that would eat away at just compensation or due process is,
well,
not.
that's where a single word would make everything that they're doing on Wednesday illegal, according to the charter, and that word is county. Fit in there somewhere, because what the county government is going to do on Wednesday, unless you come and object, is they're going to hand off that power to the city.
Yeah, and this is a very good point, Dale, because it may well be that the city's rules are slightly different when it comes to just compensation, and maybe they can rip these people off a little bit.
Now they're going to pass an ordinance. Listen, they've already done it. I mean, they're not calling this ratification, but they might as well. And that's a whole nother subject, is what does ratification mean? They've already taken a vote. People will come and talk about it, but they've already taken a vote, and they're just going to ratify the vote. Ratify, that's a large rat. We've talked about that before. But in this case, do you feel that the vote that they're taking on Wednesday will erode this whole thing about just compensation that's written into our charter, which we're supposed to obey above all things?
Right. Yeah. This is what I'd be looking at if were I a homeowner in that area who was going to lose all or part of my property to this to this little grab they're about to do.
Now, we've already heard, we've told you, here's Cheryl Walker breaking the state election law while holding our feet to the fire on it. We're going to do that because we're honest people, okay? Here's Keith Eck saying, I know we're breaking the law and I don't care. He didn't just say it once, he said it 3 times. Here's Simon Hare, when confronted with proof that he lied, cutting the power to the microphones, okay? So they don't care, but people can make a difference. They are sensitive to this, and you know they're sensitive because they've taken so long to do it. Plus, they wouldn't be changing the words from eminent domain to, what was that? There's weasel words that they're using. They're calling it the resolution of necessity, unless they thought that people would have this knee-jerk response to the words eminent domain. And it's not that that these people aren't going to get just compensation. You know, actually, truly, they probably will get. Although anyone who kicks is going to probably not feel like they're getting just compensation. That's not the point. How do you feel about the fact that the county decides on its own, without? This will be the only time that you've had input. You're going to have 3 minutes on this whole precedent-setting thing. You have only 3 minutes in the history of mankind to stop the idea, not about just compensation, to stop the idea that the county on their own is going to give away carte blanche to anybody. Mexico, the UN, trespass.
Well, and the second part of Section 2 is very important, not only to this particular case, but also to the people like the miners up there in Galice.
Let's see it.
It says where any current law, ordinance, resolution, administrative rule, or statute within or outside of Josephine County may be interpreted to deny or erode any of the provisions of this charter amendment, that interpretation is void and not to be enforced within Josephine County by any individual, group, or federal, state, or local governmental body or agency. So if this is the case, and, let's say, for instance, that, maybe our commissioners were, people who read and felt strongly about the enforcement of this document, the charter, they might actually weigh in on the situation up there in Galice with the miners there and say, hey, listen here, BLM, you're not going to do this here. Or so says our charter, and they'd be on the phone with the sheriff going, hey, listen, you cannot allow BLM to come up here and do this. This is against the charter. But of course, this is where the little conversation that we had with Wally comes into play, because if there's apparently the state's constitution comes into play in here somewhere, and there are some technicalities, and we're going to have to get clarification on that. Very sorry.
Those technicalities are pretty complex, and it's just too bad that we've run out of time to try to tell. Honestly, both of us had a little trouble understanding exactly what he was saying because he was saying it so fast, and we started talking about what should the commissioners do, what is their responsibility when it comes to the miners. And then he wanted to talk instead about something that would come before that, okay? And what comes before that is when the city of Cave Junction makes a decision about marijuana dispensaries. What? Okay, when they make a decision about that, can the state tell them, no, you can't do that? And if they can tell them, no, they can't do that, their rules for a city are different than those of a county.
Right.
Yes, of course. Well, we knew that to begin with. Didn't you? Of course. It's completely different. We don't want to give you the wrong information. And I think I understand all of what he was saying. But before we give you the wrong information and you get launched off in 1,000 ships, before that happens, we need to be absolutely dang sure that we're understanding what it was that county legal counsel is telling us, because I trust this county legal counsel while I did not with the previous one for 20 years.
Right. Now it is important to note that this is what is written in the charter. So in terms of reporting that to you, this is what is in the charter. It's just that you have to then consult the annotations, and then Wally is going to be going back and revisiting all of these annotations because he seemed to believe, and I don't want to get in trouble saying what his feelings are on this, but it seemed to me that he had a high priority on going back and revisiting the entire charter and the annotations. And I'm assuming that's to check and see whether or not these annotations were done in the best interests or even legal, to this charter, because in the charter, it says no changes or abridgments of any of the provisions of this charter amendment shall be made or enforced by any entity acting within Josephine County or upon individuals within Josephine County without a 2/3 majority vote of the voters of Josephine County in acceptance. I don't remember that happening.
Especially not on this thing where they're going to give away the power of eminent domain to Grants Pass City about anything.
Right. That's a good question. Well, and the charter, so far as what we've seen, doesn't necessarily, or it doesn't yet speak to whether they can grant as almost like a
carte blanche.
So it's a subletting of their rights to the city for eminent domain. So that's an interesting thing. I think it needs challenge.
Now, I believe that our citizenry here is in two parts. It might be 80%, 20%, but they're in two parts. There are those people who say, Dale and Mike, shut up and sit down. The county government needs to move faster. It will move a lot faster if you don't question our government. We're hearing this in the church. You're questioning authority. They'll go much faster if you just stop questioning government. Let them move quickly. And then there are those of us who feel.
Yeah, and here, let me speak for them. When was the last time that government moving swiftly ended up good for everybody? I mean that. I don't know. Hey, whoa, slow down. Listen, the way our government is set up is deliberately to encumber them from working speedily. And this idea, and listen, somebody came up with this. They go, hey, why don't we start talking about how we should all be bipartisan? And then, then everybody in Congress could get stuff done. Let's start talking about that and have everybody believe that that's a good idea. No, they set this up so that each department, a branch of government was fighting against one another.
That's the whole purpose of it.
Yes, it's deliberately meant to move like a snail so that government couldn't roll over you.
Now, don't be telling me that people are bipartisan because they were born that way, okay? I just am not buying that, okay? So, whatever. Okay, so thanks for the acknowledgement, Mike.
Yes.
My point is that we're supposed.
Well, listen, if you want more acknowledgement, here's what I suggest:
make better jokes. Yes,
yeah,
I get it.
Get some better writers or something.
Yeah, well, I'm doing this off the top of my head, as you can see.
Yes,
it's all gone. Yes.
Well, yes, and here's the problem. Why don't you start selling widgets with the darn commercial?
Yes, that's right. Selling widgets. All we do is try to tell you what the news is. What are you doing to me? Says Mike. Okay, look.
Jeez.
There's always a challenge in this. If we say, and I'm saying it now, please come on Wednesday and tell the commissioners what you think about the charter and what you and all you need to do. See, the danger is that nobody shows up and then we look like fools. Or not Mike, just me. Okay, just me. I'm always saying, just me. I look stupid because I'm encouraging you to come to the weekly business session. That's stupid to begin with most of you. I already know that. Okay.
Well, listen, I mean, if you live in this area and this applies to you, then certainly you should be there.
Well, it's going to apply to you. You don't need to live on that road for this to apply to you. Do you want the county commissioners? Yeah, go ahead.
That's true, but listen, you know what? And listen, fine. I'm certainly not trying to dissuade people in the county who care about this. I'm not trying to persuade you not to come in.
But here's what you can do. Here's all that you need to do. You need to come in and say, I believe you need to consult with legal counsel more and don't pass this today.
Mm.
Okay. Because if a bunch of people show up, they're not going to pass it. Oh, we've decided to table that. They do it all the time. No, we
Yeah.
decided to delay on discussing that. All they're doing, just like they did last week, is they're delaying till there aren't so many people there. And then they're going
Right.
to
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah, they'll whip that out when no one in the room cares about what the miners are doing, and then they'll go, oh, okay, time for a vote here.
Or they're going to take the vote in the little back room with only me sitting there and you watching through the camera with me, and then they'll ratify that vote at the weekly business session as part of their, agenda items they don't even talk about. Okay. But what you can do is you can come and you can say, really, you need to consult with legal counsel because there are some charter issues here. And we have talked to Wally Hicks about the charter issues we have in general and what are your powers and what are not your powers. And you're precipitous in your action. You're moving a little too quickly. You need to look at this. And on this important issue, eminent domain and handing over power to the city, we'd like you to double, triple, quadruple think about that before you go ahead and do it.
Right. And this next section speaks to that. It goes, the Josephine County Board of Commissioners and the Josephine County District Attorney must enforce all provisions of this charter amendment. This enforcement must include citing persons charged with violating this charter amendment by issuing a Class B misdemeanor citation.
Whoa.
No person shall be immune from such citation, regardless of any personal or official capacity, whatever. Judicial proceedings regarding such citations shall follow the same as in the issuance of any other misdemeanor citation. So the thing is that this speaks to the commissioners directly being involved in enforcement of the charter.
Right.
So it says the Josephine County Board of Commissioners and the Josephine County District Attorney must enforce. So where is it that they get off not saying something about the minor situation?
And when they say, and when this says must,
and
this is not should or maybe will. This says must.
Right. Yeah, it does. It does. And if you're one of these people who owns one of these properties and you come in and you are, laying out your case in front of the commissioners should really almost be advocating for you.
Oh, you think?
Well,
that would be nice.
That's what's supposed to happen in the first few sections of this charter amendment here. It talks about them wanting to make sure that your rights in the Constitution are not being violated. Your right to due process and just compensation. Now, I don't know if anybody has sued them and due process has taken place. I'm not aware of that. Are you aware of any of that?
I don't know. They don't talk about that kind of stuff. They just don't. And if anybody knew, it would be Steve Rich. And you think he would tell us then or now?
Well, maybe Wally would know something about this.
Maybe Wally would, but he's got some more work to do. Okay. Here's the thing. If there's any question about whether it's okay, according to the charter, to hand off, because this is not written in here. Maybe they didn't think the commissioners would ever do such a thing. If there was even a question about whether it was okay for the commissioners to hand off the power of eminent domain to Cave Junction or to Grants Pass, the city, or to Merlin, or hand it off to Jackson County or somebody else without even consulting with us. If there's even a question about that, they should stop.
Right. And
back off.
Section 5 speaks to that. No individual within Josephine County shall be barred from seeking civil relief in the courts of Josephine County from any injury or potential injury arising from the violations of any of the provisions of this charter amendment. No person or body, public or private, shall be immune from jurisdiction by the courts of Josephine County over matters arising from this charter amendment. And this includes all of the charter amendment, all of these sections that we've discussed here.
Now you may say, well, no, wait a minute. Can't you just hear Cheryl Walker saying this? Well, they're going to get just compensation. We might even give them some other kind of property, and we'll call that just compensation. That that's not the point. Do
Yes,
you
but
have the power to hand it off to somebody else?
well, and not only that, this says no individual within Josephine County shall be barred from seeking civil relief in the courts. You know, so I mean, there may not even be an objection to this at this point. They may have already gone and negotiated something with these people, and they're go, oh, hey, that's fine with me. I like it, whatever. But if that hasn't happened, it says that they shall not be barred from seeking relief in the courts, which totally makes sense. I mean, how are you going to stop somebody from doing that? Oh, wait, you can't do that. You can sue somebody for anything now.
According to the last thing that the city said, and I sat through that boring meeting too. Thank you very much, everybody. According to the city, the last time they were involved in this and they made it open to the public, they said that yes, there is at least one property owner that's going to fight this. So how can we be sure that the county is obeying the charter? I'm saying it again, when they're handing off the power to somebody else.
Yeah, and that's the conflict here. That, you know, that's the unknown, and it may well be why they're doing it.